Hello, Raiders. Welcome to my review and guide to comments. You heard me right, it's comments. They're usually not really exactly thought of much in the game. However, my account, which seems to be a special type of account, has been solely focused on comments. And as you'll see, I have every individual comment maxed out. Now, I've seen very few reviews and very few guides, actually, almost no guides at all, over commons in the game, which is fair enough. They're not exactly the most grandiose type of champions to work with, but they are your most common. You get them from mystery shards, you get them from the market, you get them from campaign. They're almost everywhere. And they're extremely easy to book out. I mean, you're talking about what seems to be basically the easiest champions to max out, because you have like lists of skill booking, and it's not hard because all you need is another copy of a common to max out, to really upgrade their skill. And this is something I've heard, which are very odd myths about commons, which is, for one, that they can ascend. They cannot ascend. There is no way to do that. You go to the tavern, you get to ascend, and it says champion cannot be ascended. Um, and another one is that they take less XP to max out than a legendary, which is also untrue. It takes actually a lot more to upgrade a common from a 1 star all the way to 6. Every rarity, regardless of what base star they're at, or how much you've upgraded them or ranked them, they take the exact same amount of experience to rank up to the next level. So, for instance, an uncommon would have the exact same level experience as a 2-star common, and a legendary has the exact same as a common at rank 5 or 5-star to max out, and then being able to be upgraded to a 6-star. Now, another thing I have heard is that they cannot equip, sometimes I've heard of it, is rings, which obviously they can. You just need to make sure that the champion's a 4-star and they're able to equip rings. I've also heard they can't get masteries. They obviously can. Now, to not beat around the bush about this topic, basically what I want to get through is basically where these champions are at as far as ranking with each other first, my personal opinion, and how I have learned throughout using them at their maximum capacity. And then we'll talk just a little bit more about like how their kit is and what to really look for in stats. So first up, I'm going to go with the absolute worst common to work with. Now, this can go either or. I'm not going to say that you can't interchange these two. You really can. They're both pretty bad, but I'm gonna give it to Bully. Now you've probably seen a video from Hill Hades talking about how um, he's one of those weird duds where you're able to get some damage in, but it's nothing major. Even his absolutely insane booking levels, it's nothing that you can really boast about. Um, his main strategy for using him is, just for defense. That's the defense in HP. That seems to be what he's really good at, is just staying alive. He does have, I believe, the highest defense in the game for the common rarity, and he's great for taking damage for you. We'll cover the masteries just a little tad bit. I honestly think that he's great with this little setup you see right here. Now, the one I need to talk about the most is these last two. I think these last two are great for specifically Bully and Warboy, which I'll get later into. Because they're defensive and they're very bulky. They're just absolute tanks. Now let's move on to the second worst, or technically the first worst, if you really want to interchange it. It doesn't matter which one. This common has the absolute worst speed as far as I know in the game. I've never seen a champion with similar speed to him. I could be wrong, but I believe he has the absolute worst speed in the game. Now, because his speed is terrible, you would think he would have something that accommodates for it, but no. His chance of landing a decreased defense is so low, so absurdly low, that it's actually embarrassing. I think mainly his entire stick is to just is literally just to focus on accuracy and speed, since he has the lowest speed, and that's why I have perception. Now, these masteries are nothing really too unique. This is a basic setup. You'll see why it's basic, because like everything else has around the same thing when it comes to champions that need to land any type of debuff. It needs to do a little bit of damage and even survive. This is something you'll see a lot. Now moving on, we have Mage Killer. Now this one's actually very unique, and it's actually not too bad, but I'm placing it this low because of this. A 10% chance of putting the target's skill on cooldown. Now this is an absurdly good debuff, even though it's not really debuff. It's more like a passive debuff where they can't really block it from a debuff block buff, but they can resist it, which sucks if they do, because this chance is so low that I'm not even sure if, I believe, where is it? I'm not even sure if Sniper, the Mastery Sniper, actually increases the debuff, because it's not exactly a debuff. But regardless, she has the highest speed out of all commons, which is great. Absolutely great. We all love speed. Unfortunately, she's not really great for survivability, and I just don't really use her all that too often. It's usually very niche. But it's absolutely insanely good when you see her land that target's cooldown increase little symbol. But if you use your on like a legendary or a mythical, and you see all of their like every single ability they have go on cooldown, it is the best thing to see. It is the type of thing that will make you go, oh my god, Because she's absolutely great. She honestly is. It's just that chance is so low. Now, moving on, we got Swordsman. That's not Swordsman. There we go. Now, Swordsman is he's interesting. See, I placed him lower than the other common that also decreases defense because he has a 50% chance of landing decreased defense, 55 with the sniper mastery, which again you'll see this basic setup again and again with a lot of champions that need to land debuffs and survive. I'll say this: he is absolutely great in Fire Knight when it comes to a common only team because he can attack twice. He doesn't just attack once; he attacks twice. But his survivability is extremely low. I've yet to understand what I'm doing wrong, really. But not only is his survivability low, but his damage output is not really that great. I'll figure it out later on, but so far I just have him with Cruel Perception, which is good enough. Now moving on, we got Preacher. Now this is the only common I actually have an uncommon and a common gear piece from Campaign equipped on her and Ascended is because it actually goes very well with her. Like it actually goes absurdly well, and that's why I don't really want to replace it. But her entire thing is literally just attacking and decreasing the attack of the attacker. It's great until you realize that her damage is based off an attack. This is why she's lower than the one that also decreases attack, but is based off defense, which I'll get to later. Now this setup is just a little bit different because she's more of like a HP type of champ, and that's why it has HP next to the set info. But she's obviously not based off of HP for attack. She's attack based, so it's a little bit misleading. But moving on, we got the single best defense decreaser or defense decrease buff debuffer in the game. He has, on paper, 95% chance of landing a decreased defense, but of course adds sniper, and he goes to a 100% chance of just landing decreased defense, which is great. Now it's only for one turn, but again, you can always just use Master Hexer and it'll increase the debuff by at least one turn. And he's just perception, just like Novitiate. And I believe Mage Killer? Yeah, Mage Killer is also that way. And then, moving on, we have the other decrease attack champion. He lands the debuff. He is absurdly great. That's why I have deflection on him, is because he has an actually absurdly high defense because of the set I have on him. But he's amazing. He does his job very well. He can survive for a very long time. And again, that decreased attack debuff is great. It is a lower chance compared to Preacher, but it's still basically a quarter chance, which is good. And because he's defense, he's basically going to last you much longer than Preacher can. Now, moving on to, oh yeah, I forgot. There's Masters. Masters are a little bit different because he's defense based. So you can go and look at that. But moving on, we got Lurker. Lurker is an interesting champion because she's the only one that can land a lower poison, not the higher poison, because there's one that can land the higher poison, but that's way later in this setup. She has a pretty decent chance at landing poison for 2 turns, right? But if you give her a toxic set, she ends up landing 2 poisons. And then, with your average looking mastery line, you can then use Maxter Hexer, which is great. It will make them last for 3 turns if you get lucky. The only difference is that I put a pressure on her, because she lands so many poisons, you may as well just use it. She's not exactly great at survivability, but she can manage if you have something like Bully, I guess, or Warboy once I get to it. The next one up is Axeman. This one is what you would call an actual HP based common champion. His damage output is not based off of HP, it's based off of defense. And it has a very unique debuff for common, which is decreased accuracy. This is very useful for any debuffers on the opposing team. And his setup looks just a little bit different. I gave him Shadow Heal, and the reason why is because of his absurd amount of HP. Now, I am almost certain that Knecht, which I believe is how you say it, or Kekt, one of the two, he has, I think, around the same or a little bit higher, but this is still absurdly good. And you can't really you can't get a better champion than this when it comes to HP as far as base stats, as far as the rarity at least. Now moving on, we got Yuman. Now this one is actually unique. You probably will not find a champion similar to this in any other rarity. You might. I'm not taking out the possibility because I haven't looked at all of them. But it's most likely uncommon you're going to be seeing something like this. Now, you'll see that I put Relentless Gear on him. And you'd be like, why would you waste tournament gear, which is sometimes super hard to get, on a common champion? Even though I put a lot of good gear on these commons, as you can see. And it's because of his ability. You've probably seen this covered a few times on other raid channels, which is that this guy has a 3-hitter. This is amazing for Fire Knight and for anyone you're opposing, really, because you're attacking 3 times. In each hit, he has a 25% or 30%, once you have Sniper, chance of landing. At least I believe it's a 30% chance. It might not. I'm not sure if it counts as a debuff or not. But at least a 25% chance of decreasing the turn meter by 20% on each hit. This is really good because you do not want the opponent taking turns. That simple. He has a little bit of a different setup to most other champions because he has Giant Slayer. This is the most, like, out of all the champions that I've covered, this is the most unique part. It's just Giant Slayer. And it's just because he's landing 3 hits instead of just 1. Because if he's just landing 1, I would have used War Master. But he's landing 3 all the time. And can take 4 turns in a row. I've seen it happen, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it happen with Relentless Gear as well. And it's just absurdly good. It's amazing. You can decrease an entire opponent's turn meter from 99% to 0. Now next up is Sister Militant. Sister Militant has been covered before and is sought out to be the best common to most people when it comes to damage output, it seems, and also debuffs. I do not use her for debuffs. I love her damage output, it's amazing, but I do not use her for debuffs. And I actually forgot that this one actually does have Common Gear as well. I forgot about that. That's another one that has Common Gear then. I've seen so many, well, not so many, but I've seen at least a few videos covering that she can use the stun set and be very good. The only problem I have with that is that she doesn't have a debuff already. She just has an AoE. I do get the whole point, trust me. I do get the whole point that you're supposed to use it and just basically have like a stun lock just all the time, as long as she's keep getting turns and all that. But I don't see the point in it. So instead, this is what the masteries look like, and this is what my sets look like. Again, she's amazing for campaign and amazing for like just farming and stuff like that. But I can't use her for debuffs. I don't see the point in it, at least personally. And again, I have a lot of experience with commons. I've literally dedicated my account to it. Because as you can see, the only 6 stars I have is commons. Otherwise, it would show other ones. Now moving on to Connect or Kect. I don't really know how to say it. I don't know if it's Connect. I mean, I don't know. He is my favorite champion. Like my absolute favorite champion. Because he looks great. He survives for a very long time, and he has the highest damage output for a defensive champ that I have. The reason why is because of his kit. He's defensive based, but he also adds an extra 20% chance of inflicting a critical hit. This means that by 15%, you then add 20%, you now have 35%. So now all you need to do is add 65% crit rate. And then you get 100%. Which is great. Now his is a little bit higher because his gauntlet is crit rate, which I wish was crit damage. But I moved that to someone else. Which I don't think I'm going to be covering. But it's fine. He's able to do lots of damage and survive for a very long time, so that's all you can really take out of him. And this is what his masteries look like. Now, key difference between probably most of these defensive-based champions is that he has Iron Skin. You may think that's completely useless. Why would you use that? Because it's like a small 200 base stat of defense. But that is why his defense is so high. If I didn't have it, it would just be a 1,804 added to it. But instead, it's 2,004. So it does make a difference. Moving on, we got Ranger. Now, the upcoming ones are going to be the absolute best as far as the top 5. But this is number 6. Okay. Now, this one is pretty crazy, honestly. I have yet to see a video talking about Ranger. And it's because I think they're underestimating her viability. You have her first one, her first ability, that decreases speed with a 30% chance or 35% chance with Sniper, and it can last two turns if you have. Well, actually, it already lasts 2 turns, so it can last up to 3 turns if you have Master Hexer, which is great. And then you have Attack All Enemies, or Multi-Shot, AoE on her 2 turn, or her second ability. I mean, I'm reading all this stuff wrong. I'm sorry. It only has a 2 turn cooldown, so that, or really, it can be a 1 turn if you have what is this thing called? Cycle of Magic. Yep. And I believe Cycle of Violence. Yep. So, with both of those in mind, she's basically getting the AoE nonstop. And this is why I gave her Savage. You would think I would want to give Savage to Sister Militant, which I did for a little bit. It didn't really work. The damage output was not the same. Her damage output is actually not bad, and especially on a single target, she does pretty decent damage on just her single ability to just decrease speed. And then, of course, she has War Master, so she's doing even more damage. I think this is an underrated comment and should be talked about from other videos, because if Sister Militant is the one getting glory for a stun set and maybe some damage output, why is she not? I need to know the reason. Now, these are the top 5, right? Number 5 is Pikeman. The reason why he's number 5 is because he does, as far as how I have used him, he does not last long. Now, of course, I do not have 6-star frost sets, and this is because I cannot do the Ice Golem dungeon. I cannot get 6-star sets. I can't. There's not, I don't have enough power to do that. I don't have the champions to do that, because commons can't do it. I've tried. I have tried with these absolutely maximum potential champions. They cannot do it. I have been told that I couldn't even do Brutal with common champions, but I actually went through Brutal. I just can't do Nightmare, at least as far as I know. If I get absolute god tier mythical equipment, I bet I could, but I am not that lucky. But his entire gimmick is to land freeze on his attack. Now, this is why he has a frost set, is to increase his rate of landing frost. See, if an opponent attacks him, he then has a 20% chance to land a buff, land a freeze debuff for 1 turn on them, which is great. And I have, this is going to sound weird, but I have Master Hexer, and then I have Harvest Despair. Now, if you did not know this, Leech is not excluded from Master Hexer. So when he lands freeze, he can land up to a 2-turn leech, which is great because it's allowing your champions to live longer as they attack. So, not only does he have a 50% chance, 55% with the, I believe it's the, actually no, it's not 55 with the sniper because it excludes it. Never mind, I did not have sniper. But it's still a 50% chance, flip of a coin. And then you have the almost quarter chance to land frost. What more can you get from this guy? This is basically the set you're going to want to work with him because you want to land frost as much as possible. Now, for number 4, we're going to move on to, I believe he was attack? Yeah, this says defensive, but it's really attack. I don't know why it says defensive on here. Maybe it originally was updates long ago. But this is a true defensive champion. And this one has provoke. Like I said, these top 5 are very unique. Even number 6 was unique. Some of these champions are just unique in general. But he has a 15% chance of landing provoke. I'm pretty sure I do not have sniper. Yep, because it excludes provoke. Now, if you wanted to look at the masteries, go ahead. But this is the sets I'm working with. This looks a little bit rambunctious, a little bit obnoxious, but it does help him because it's getting every stat that he needs is set for attack. I think this is the only one that gives me attack. Yeah, it's a terrible ring. I need a better one, which I think that one's not any better. But he's great, and this is why I have him with Bulwark and Selfless Defender, because just like Bully, he's a tank, and he's supposed to take damage. That's why he has Provoke. So he's basically just taking damage for the entire team. This is something you need for commons, because a lot of commons cannot survive for very long. Now the top 3. Number 3 is Hellhound. Hellhound is an interesting one, as most of these are. His damage is based off of attack and defense at the same time. And unlike Death Knight, which I'll get into, he lands sleep when he lands a critical hit. So it's a 100% chance. 100%. But of course, you need the accuracy for it. And then you need the critical rate for it, which I do have. And then you need the attack, defense, and crit damage to abide by that. Because, again, he's based off of both. And I've kind of rounded it out pretty decently. I mean, it's not even, but it's decently even. And this is what his masteries look like. So a very solid champ. I actually use him a lot. And I use him a lot because there is this specific team I use for turn meter control. When it comes to just a regular arena and not 5 champions, like with the Fire Knight. Because the Fire Knight uses a separate set, which I'll get into later. But I use Hellhound, Death Knight, Pikeman, and Ranger to control turn meter whenever I'm in a battle. But moving on, we have Deathhound. You probably expected Deathhound to be number 1. But I'm sorry to say that this guy does not last long. That's why he has Swift Parry. He has terrible HP as far as I have built him. because I build him mainly on attack. Because his most destructive ability is his first ability. His second ability is not bad. It lands a bigger poison, a 5% poison, for 2 turns, and is based off defense. This is okay, but almost everyone agrees to build him this way because it does a lot more damage and it ignores 2 buffs that are crucial for most champions to survive. But not only that, he ignores defense if he gets a critical hit. And that's why his critical rate is more than 100%. Block damage is one of the most annoying buffs to go against. But because he ignores it, he can kill champions that have this buff. And even with shield, he'll ignore that. And even if they have extremely high defense, guess what? He's ignoring 100% of their defense. Because it doesn't say he ignores 25%. It doesn't say he ignores 50%. It says he ignores defense. That means the entire thing. And you can definitely see that by his damage output. Because the way that I have him in, he does at least 24,000 damage. I've seen him do it a lot. That's quite a lot of damage for a common. I have not seen any other common get to his level of damage. Now for the top one, Death Knight. Did I choose Death Knight because he's the mascot of Raid? Did I choose Death Knight because he's a sleeper? Both are relatively good answers, but this is not the case. Because I chose him because of his passive. He's the only common that has a passive. And this passive is amazing. He counterattacks 30% of the time. I'm not sure if... Okay, I didn't use Sniper because it excludes sleep, which makes sense. I'm not sure if it even increased this anyways, because it's not a buff or debuff, really. And he's great for retaliation. He's great for countering. And that's why I have him in the number 1 spot, okay? He's just absolutely amazing at doing what he needs. Now, I just realized, and this is because of the list that I have, I forgot to put the number 15 slot. I put 19 slots, but forgot to write down the number 15 slot. So we're gonna have to look at this guy real quick. That's why I was kind of pausing a little bit, because I just realized that. So this is really the person that's supposed to be, I believe, around number 10 or number 11 actually, is Thrall. Thrall is an interesting champion. I'll go back to Death Knight because I have a little bit more to say about him, but I need to cover this real quick. Thrall is interesting because I have him on a Relentless set, as you can see. But the reason why is because of his ability, which is that he has a 5% chance of placing an extra hit. The reason why I say a 5% chance, and you're gonna look at this kit and be like, oh, it's a 50% chance. I believe it's only a 5% chance. The reason why is because I have gone through so many battles with this champion. And I am telling you, it is not a 15% chance. If it was, it would be happening a lot more often than it actually does. And because this does not count as a buff or debuff, this debuff or debuff chance plus percent does nothing. And that's why I don't have him on this side, where you would probably increase his ability by 5% with Sniper if it actually increased it. That's also that he doesn't land any debuffs, so there's no point to go into the support branch. However, I have seen him do this extraordinary thing, and this happened really early in my account. This was when I believe he was a 4-star. I don't know if they patched this or not, but he hit a 4-hitter in a single turn. This is why I have Relentless Gear on him, is because I want to see that happen again. Because his crit damage right now is actually pretty high compared to most champions that I have. And because of that, he lands absurdly high numbers when he does land his critical hit, though his critical rate is absurdly low. But if he lands not only the 4-hitter, but then lands the critical damage, then most likely he's going to be doing a ton of damage. And not just because of that, but because he has Giant Slayer. I put Giant Slayer on him because it's based off of multiple attacks, instead of where War Master is 1 attack. I've said this probably more than twice, but I'm just trying to remind you. So that's the great part about him. He's great in Fire Knight and some other niche battles, but that's about it. Now going back to Death Knight. Now the reason why I have him at the number 1 spot is because his power is absurdly low for the stats he actually has. If you look at his stats are pretty amazing. And he lasts for a while. And his power is still absurdly low. So that's kind of another reason why I put him up there. And of course, he's a sleeper. He lands sleep. So you were half true to guess that I put him on the top spot because of sleep. But it's not just because of his sleep. Again, it's because of his countering ability. If I had an entire set of just retaliation, a 3-set, right? That would increase it to a 45% chance. And then you have the 30% chance. Now, of course, it's rolling these sets. See, this is something I've learned, which is that these sets don't combine as like a number. They're different sets they roll on. It's a weird system, but regardless, it's still amazing to have this not exactly additive, but additional counterattacking chances. It's almost like a sweepstakes, but except for a champion. And if I had a ring that had basically that 5% countering attack ability, it would make him godly. I still think I have him geared wrong, because I want him to have a retaliation set, of course, but a daze set. I almost called it a sleep set. It's not a sleep set, it's a daze set. Because I want him to land sleep much more often. Now I can stop worrying about the order of which these champions are in. Now I can just talk about champions. So, this guy is amazing in Sand Devil. I gotta put that out there. He's the champion I use all the time to land sleep on the Sand Devil. And I actually do have Sand Devil progress. I'll go ahead and just show you my progress in this game. Let me claim that, because why not? So first off, I did all of Brutal, all of hard, all of normal, of course. Nightmare is where I struggled a lot, and I've only got to this part. I have yet to beat the dragon. I think I honestly could beat it with commons, but it would be based off of RNG because I only get so far before the second wave just destroys me. The first wave is not the problem, it's the second wave. And then the dragon, of course, will destroy like the few remaining champs that are left. Now in dungeons, I can't show you all the keeps, but if you want to look at the keep, I mean, I don't really care about it, really. I only care about the lesser potions right now, because I am working on uncommons. But this is my progress in the keeps, I guess. I have yet to progress in Iron Twins. Go figure. I have progressed quite a bit in Minotaur. I have yet to go to stage 14 and beat it, and of course stage 15. Ice Golem, I think, yeah, I'm like at the cusp of actually getting to the 6-star drops, which is great. Dragon's Lair, I'm able to get the stage done. I have only done it twice. The reason why is because this is based off of RNG, and it is a hell of a waste of energy. It's terrible. This is the dungeon I have, as far as set dungeons, this is the dungeon I have the least progress in, besides the spider den, which I'll get to. If I go and click on this, you can kind of see how my setup kind of works. I always use the multi-hitters, and then I either trade out Deathhound for Ranger, or I believe that's it. I've done Warboy very few times, but usually I use either Deathhound or Ranger. I honestly don't think even with God tier gear that I could beat stage 13 on Fire Knight consistently, because it's that hard. And then there's Spider Den. Spider Den is even harder, because I have to have AoEs, which there's only 2 champions that I can use that have AoEs. And then there's Deathhound, which does damage, and that's about it. Sand Devil, I've got to stage 3. I can't do stage 4 for whatever reason. Usually Void bosses are the easiest bosses to beat, but I do not have the damage output for it. I just end up dying. And I've actually got to 2 stages of Phantom Shogun. I believe I can probably do stage 3, but I've yet to try as of recently, because I have maxed out champions now. And since we're basically at the end of this entire video, I may as well just go ahead and show you my roster. Now, keep in mind, that is not the only legendary I have, it's just in the sparring pit. As you can see, I have a lot of progress in these uncommons. Now, as you can kind of see, these 3 are actually these 4. I'm standing over. These 4 uncommons are actually the 4 uncommons I started with on this account. See, when I was first starting this account, I was kind of just goofing around. I messed with Aethel, or I think it's, yeah, Aethel, or Ethel, whatever you want to say. But Aethel. Because she was my starter, but I only got her up to a 4-star, and then I stopped using her because she was born. So instead, I started working on uncommons, and these are the 4 uncommons I worked with. So this is a little bit of lore of my own account. Okay. And then I just stopped working on them, because then I was like, well, this is boring. I got bored of using uncommons. Uh, and so then I just started using these. Started using a bunch of commons, and that's basically how my account started. I have dealt with countless retaliation from new and veteran players of telling me that I am a noob and I am terrible at the game and I should stop doing this. It's a waste of time. I'll never get anywhere with this. And sure, do I not make as much progress? Completely true. Sure, do I not collect as many champions? Completely true. However, because of my niche, I am the first person that I have that I know at least, as far as I've seen on YouTube and other people on the raid channels, in the game channels, not on YouTube, that has started this journey and finished it. I have completely hit the late game genre of commons. I am in early game, of course, as obvious. But as far as the progress in commons, I'm late game. I'm basically in mid game for the uncommons because most of them are 4 stars. Most of them. I am excited to work on uncommons. I've seen a channel do an uncommons only challenge and it was great. Loved watching it. I forgot what the channel was called. But it's been a long journey and I'm just glad that I got to the end of it. I got to the end of this absolutely absurdly long journey of maxing out commons because it took ages. When I'm telling you that it takes so long to suck 6-star a common, it truly does. It takes an absolute considerable amount of time and patience. And like I said, a lot of people think I was wasting my time. Did it take a long time? Yes, it took, I believe, 4 years. 4 years of playing this game. Probably 5, if I was truly 14 years old playing this, but I doubt that. I believe I was 15. And I don't know. It's something that you can't get out of playing this game normally. Normal players with their normal routes in this game cannot get the same satisfaction as I can with this game. At least as far as I know. Because there's a certain type of just affection you get from this game when you get something absurdly right with low tier characters or low tier champions. This was supposed to be in the vault. I just upgraded his skill. But I do have almost every rare in here. These are all just a bunch of rares. I believe there's more than 200 rares, so it's a little bit short, but those are the rares. Now, as far as legendaries, you'd actually be surprised. I have basically every login reward champion there is, and a few summoned ones. I believe. Where is he? This guy. This guy. I believe he was a summon. I believe he was a summon. I forget if he was or not. But if we're counting that guy, we have. Let me just click on all of these just to make this easier for myself and you. 21 legendaries. So definitely more than 10, which is absurd. I have quite a bit of epics as well. And fun fact, epics are the biggest quantity in the game. there is an absurd amount of epics in this game, and it's it's more than rares, it's more than legendaries. They cover up the majority of the champions, but I only have just a few, probably about 30 or so. I think that's 30. It could be 40. Of course, I have Guardians as well. I have Guardian champions. I don't have any epics or legendaries, but it does give a pretty decent boost and the rare field, which is amazing because all these are all just campaign grindable champions, rare champions, and it basically just prepares me for the rare uh, progress. Now, of course, I'm stuck in uncommons, but I like to prepare ahead of time. That's why for the uncommons, I was preparing ahead of time for just slightly extra gear. I don't have much extra gear. If you'll notice, I clicked the wrong thing. I just don't. I I don't think I'm going to be using Relentless on anyone anytime soon. I don't have full sets of a lot of these. It's mostly just forged sets. Could I farm attack, defense, HP, and critical rate gear from Nightmare? Sure, but it would take a considerable amount of time. So this is what I have so far. And this is what my faction wars looks like. I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but as you can see, this is probably what you would guess if you know how these factions work, is that the Sacred Order has the highest amount of stars, and it's because you get a full team of commons. The only one that gives you close to a full team is Bannerlords, which I believe is the second highest. Yep, the second highest star rating that I have. Because it gives you four commons. And then Undead. And I know, oh yeah, Barbarians, and well, the Barbarian is only mostly because I was actually upgrading uncommons, because I made a rule where I could use the lowest rarity I could find for the faction and still upgrade them if I really need to get past certain stages. Of course, commons are the objective goal, at least during that time. But now the objective goal is uncommon, so it's definitely going to be increasing pretty soon. And then Dark Elves, which was mainly carried by Mage Killer, Lurker, and Ranger. And I think that's it. Well, of course, Sylvan Watcher, Dwarf. Those ones were uncommons, though. There's no commons in there. And then this Lizard Men, which was solely on Troglodyte. The rest of them suck because I did not really gear them that much. The only ones I actually geared was I think it's Stalker or something like that heals himself, and then Knight's Revenant, which was just Thrall because he had the highest damage because he was a common and I was building him, and then Orcs solely basically. And that's it. That's all there is. Now, the reason why I'm making this video now, and the reason why I'm a little bit scared, is because of this hidden faction. I honestly don't think they're going to add a common anytime soon. I don't think they're ever going to add another common. But if they do, this video is going to be outdated. And that's unfortunate. And another reason why I made this is because I have seen other reviews and guides on Raid of commons, but they have yet to review every single one and build. Right, keyword is and build, because I did see a video that looked at the index and was ranking the commons. And that's fine. These are base stats. You can work with that. That is completely fine to rank off of. I mean, even I do sometimes when I'm trying to re-rank everything. It's like rethink my strategy. But that is basically it for this guide. I don't want to elongate an already hour-long video. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you enjoyed me just conversating with very low background raid music. uh, and I hope I wasn't too boring. Honestly, hope I wasn't too boring. Because this is something I'm actually really passionate about. It may not seem like I am, but I honestly am. I'm very passionate, and you can kind of tell because of how long I've done this. But this is the end of the video. If you want to see more, please tell me. And that's it.